Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Andrew Laidley. Just in the nick of time, that's how the Victoria Mutual Investments Limited listing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange is being described. The company, which launched its prospectus on December 4, is officially the last firm to list on the Jamaica Stock Exchange for 2017. The listing ceremony took place this morning at Jamaica Stock Exchange in downtown Kingston. BATV's Javon Keys reports.
VM Investments Limited is closing out the year on the stock exchange with a bang. CEO of VM Wealth Management Devon Barrett says the IPO was oversubscribed before it officially opened. He says although the IPO was open for 2 days, the company received bids exceeding the targeted amount by 4 times, long before it was closed.
What we have gotten from the marketplace is actually 4 times what we were looking for. We're looking for $690 million. We were oversubscribed to the tune of 4 times, so $2.8 billion in bids. And those bids were had like before we even started. So it's the chairman now that you have to blame for going 2 days. Because the truth is we actually had $2.8 billion before we even started. So the demand was really, really great.
So what will VM Investments do with all the money to raise through the IPO? Mr. Barrett says the company plans to invest a large amount in the productive sector.
The monies that we're raising here today is going to go nowhere else but into the productive sector. We are committing $1 billion to the productive sector in 2018, and it includes the $690 million that we just raised here. We're not using it for anything else but for investment in the productive sector. And when we say we invest in the productive sector, we're not just going to go and give you a loan. We're making equity investment in the public sector. In
the meantime, Managing Director of the JSC, Marlene Street Forest, says the VM listing has considerably increased the number of investors in the market. She says the listing also brings the exchange closer to its aim of having over 100 securities listed.
The IPO is special as it has added a large number of new investors to the market. The company has in fact added 4,364 new shareholders. With the listing today, we will have 96 securities on the market. And really what we are aiming for is more than 100.
She points out that the exchange now has over $1 trillion in market capitalization.
We are now, in terms of market capitalization, over $1 trillion. In the market capitalization, and with these 2 listings, we are $1 trillion, probably $300 billion in market capitalization.
For BATV News, I'm Javon Keys.
And while speaking at yesterday's listing of the Wysinco Group, Mrs. Street Forest urged the government to divest assets by listing them on the Jamaica Stock Exchange in a bid to help spur economic growth.
While we waited this year to see the government listing a security on the market, I'm going to appeal to the government in a time when we want to look at growth and prosperity, that they need to now divest some of those companies to the market. And I want to appeal to the brokers to push at them to see if we can get some of those companies listed on the market.
Jamaica's merchandise trade deficit totaled $3.6 billion at the end of the January to October 2017 period. According to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin, the deficit is 24.1% higher than the $2.9 billion recorded in the similar 2016 period. Here's more. Expenditure on imports for the period under review amounted to $4.7 billion. This is an increase of $799.8 million compared to $3.9 billion recorded for the 2016 period. Meanwhile, expenditure on imports from the United States of America, Jamaica's main trading partner, went up by $452.8 million to value $1.9 billion in the current 2017 review period. Statting also noted that revenue from total exports was valued at just over $1 billion. That's 9.4% above the $988.7 million recorded for the same period last year. In the meantime, earnings from total exports to the United States of America amounted to $434.4 million, 12% above the $387.8 million recorded in January to October 2016. The trade deficit with the United States of America was $1.5 billion, which was 35.6% more than the over $1 billion observed for the similar 2016 period. And Jamaica's trade deficit with CARICOM improved. The trade deficit with CARICOM stood at $280.1 million at the end of the January to October 2017 period, which represented a decline of 13.6%. For BATV News, I'm Andrew Laidley. Still to come, the government gets a thumbs up for its management of the economy in 2017, but there are concerns. More on that after the break. Welcome back. As the curtains wind down on 2017, at least two political analysts are giving the government a passing grade for its handling of the country and the economy this year. But both say the issue of crime is still a challenge for the Andrew Holness administration. Anthony Morgan reports.
Political analysts Richard Dickey Crawford and Kevin O'Brien Chang are giving the ruling Jamaica Labour Party JLP high marks for its performance this year. However, Mr. O'Brien Chang was quick to say that the party isn't really living up to its prosperity theme from its 2016 election campaign.
I gave them a high mark already. Coming towards 2017, I think they have slipped tremendously. I'd have to give them a partial mark out of 10, 5.
I'd give them maybe a 7.5 with a asterisk about the crime that they get it under control. That's the mood I when I ask people. Just talking to someone, and the term I hear is that it's not booming. It's not like prosperity has reached across the land, but the mood is lighter. People feeling less pressure.
Meanwhile, Mr. O'Brien Chang says in terms of the economy, the macro numbers have never been better.
If we get under 5% inflation this year, we had 3.7 in 2015. 1.7 last year. To go under 5 this year, to be the first 3-year stretch since 1964, 65, 66, that you have inflation under 5% in 3 consecutive years. That's 50 years ago. And you know, as a business person, no country I know of has grown without low inflation and a stable macroeconomic picture. And the dollar has rebounded from 131 to 125, little bit now. The lowest rate since June 2016.
But despite the high commendations, Mr. O'Brien Chang believes the government has a problem communicating. Both analysts also agree that there is the obvious issue of crime, which the government is yet to solve.
The Prime Minister is obviously a very hard-working person. He has a good, strong team of communicators around him. He's very aggressive out there. So consequently, he really does get a lot of support from his go-getting and his go-getting approach. At the same time, while he is, trying to be very hands-on, yes, and he gets out there, he has the difficulty, I think, that I mentioned before about the state of the economy. And of course, I think the biggest problem the Prime Minister faces and where his marks fall terribly in the management of crime and the handling of crime.
So how does the average Jamaican rate this year's performance from the Andrew Holness-led JLP government?
We not start lick him yet. Me try him better and I'm going with things.
You need to do better. You understand? Because people are idiots. And for prosperity, we expect to see prosperity. We don't expect to stress out.
I think there is a lot more improvement to be done. And I'm asking him please to keep his head straight.
For BATV News, I'm Anthony Morgan.
And the CEO of the private sector organization of Jamaica, Dennis Chung, along with many other Jamaicans, are hoping that the economy continues to strengthen in 2018. Here's Dylan Bowes with that story.
CEO of the private sector organization of Jamaica, Dennis Chung, says the Jamaican economy is poised for growth in 2018. He's projecting between 2.5 and 3% growth, but only if the government can tame the crime monster.
The 800-pound gorilla in the room, of course, is crime. Because unless we address this crime situation, if it continues to trend as it is, then we're going to reverse a lot of the gains that we've made. But certainly companies are making a lot more plans for investments and expansions going into next year, which is a good sign. Confidence, I think, will still remain strong. So I expect that consumers are going to be out there spending more money because more jobs are going to come on, I think, in 2018, certainly the BPO sector.
Meanwhile, our news team caught up with business owners, shoppers, and street vendors who said that while 2017 had its ups and downs, they're hoping the government will do more to grow the economy in 2018 so they can benefit.
Well, we hope for the best that it will change. You know, a lot of people will get work, young people will get job and support. You know, I'm looking forward to see it grow more and expand more in it. You know,
overall, it's not much different from last year, but I mean we are optimistic that 2018 coming will be much better.
In the meantime, the government is being urged to do more to create job opportunities for young people.
It's on the right trend and I expect better. But with the crime, if there is no change to it, it will be no change. Because without all these investors that want to come to Jamaica, it really needs the investors to pull the jobs. There are quite a lot of young people sitting here waiting. They are quite confused and he must do so before they decide to think of going abroad. Because they all want to go. But if they see progress in here, quite a lot will stay. Please, Prime Minister, put your head on your body continually.
For BATV News, I'm Dylan Bowes.
In the meantime, the opposition People's National Party is raising concerns about the country's growth rate. In a release to the media this evening, opposition spokesman on finance and planning Mark Golding said the party notes with concern statin figures showing that the growth rate for the third calendar quarter of 2017 was 0.8%. The party said this means that Jamaica has recorded an average growth rate of a meager 0.26% during the first 3 quarters of 2017. The PMP shadow spokesman is calling the figures disappointing and worrying because 2017 marked the second year in the Economic Growth Council's 4-year 5-in-4 target period. But Jamaica is heading for a growth rate of less than 1% for the calendar year. He said after nearly 2 years in office, the government has failed to maintain the improvement in Jamaica's growth performance that began under the previous PNP administration. He noted that the development of the BPO sector, the build-out of new rooms in the hotel sector, the reopening of Alpart, the divestment and expansion of the Kingston Container Terminal, the strategic shift to LNG and renewables in the energy sector, and the modernization of the country's tax collection capacity were all solid achievements of the previous administration, which stabilized the nation's public finances and built the foundation for sustained economic growth. He argued that while continuity of good policies is essential over the past 2 years, the government should have built on the strong growth platform which they inherited. The opposition spokesman said he's therefore calling on the government to take appropriate action to avoid further slippage in the national mission to achieve high levels of growth to support sustainable and inclusive national development. And stay with us, regional and international stories are next. Welcome back. It's time now for regional and international news. Hundreds of passengers were stranded at the Piarco Airport in Trinidad as Caribbean Airlines said mechanical difficulties grounded some of its planes. But not everybody is buying that excuse. More in this report.
Frustration and anger from passengers with tickets to Tobago via Caribbean Airlines as delays from the airline left hundreds of passengers stranded at the Piarco International Airport. Minority Leader of the Tobago House of Assembly, Watson Duke, who said he had in his possession a confirmed ticket for Tobago, described the situation as unacceptable. He's wondering what was the real purpose for the delay.
But Caribbean Airlines owes Tobago and Trinidad a duty to provide flights on a regular schedule. These flights should be running whether they're filled or empty. They should have flights running and they have their schedule. So whether it's one person or 2 or 6 person running a flight, they should not cancel any flight because of economic reasons.
He added the treatment of passengers by staff made matters even worse.
And it has been somewhat type of uncivilized treatment. They have 200 passengers there. There's no waiting room, and I tell them to stand up and wait. No bottled water.
This passenger said she was booked to return home for the holidays. However, that hasn't happened.
We are not getting any good feedback, like in terms of what is really happening. We are just being told to come back on a timely basis.
Meanwhile, Caribbean Airlines Limited says it is working to minimize inconvenience to its passengers. In its latest press release in light of the airport commotion, CAL explained that due to aircraft constraints, the airline has consolidated and rescheduled some of its services on the domestic air bridge for today. It clarified that passengers with confirmed tickets are fully accommodated. The airline said its 737 fleet is being used to support its domestic operations as required, and the ATR fleet is expected to be fully restored and in service within 24 hours. Janine Brown, C News.
Once seen as cutting-edge technology, the telegram was the precursor of many modern technologies. Now the iconic service has come to an end in Belgium, one of the last countries to have kept it alive. Al Jazeera's Neve Barker reports from London.
For 180 years, the iconic telegram brought news of calamity and condolence, joy and success. It entered popular culture, surviving the invention of the telephone and instant messaging. But the end is nigh. It was, ironically, via Twitter that Belgian telecoms firm Proximus announced the demise of its service, one of the last in the world. The system was kept alive by only a handful of businesses, mostly bailiffs issuing hard copies of legal documents. Tucked away in London's Science Museum are some of the earliest examples of the technology. The first system was developed in England in 1837 and would go on to change the world.
By 1900, there were cables that connected all the different continents of the world, and it was the first step to globalization. Radio, TV, telephone. Our world is basically built on the telegram.
It's hard to imagine, but once these cumbersome machines were cutting-edge technology, very much the same way that computers were much later on. They used the latest science of the day, electromagnetism, to point needles at letters in the alphabet to eventually spell out a word. It was all down to how skilled the telegraph operator was, using these handles. The technology created a certain style of writing, a bit like modern text messages. The word stop was used to indicate the end of a sentence. Senders also paid by the word, leading to some resourceful ways of communicating. The shortest telegram in the English language was sent by the writer and celebrated wit Oscar Wilde. He was living in Paris and sent a message to his publisher to see how his new book was doing. The message simply read, his publisher responded. Later, Morse code was used to send telegraphic messages. On April the 15th, 1912, the ill-fated Titanic sent one of its last distress calls. The UK abandoned the telegram in 1982, the US in 2006, and the biggest market, India, 4 years ago. But the technology isn't quite dead yet. You can still send telegrams in places like Italy. Also, a host of online companies and apps have emerged in recent years, offering people an experience of a bygone age. Oh. Neve Barker, Al Jazeera, London. Stop.
Talking Stocks is after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Time now for Talking Stocks. 50 stocks traded today, of which 26 advanced, 12 declined, and 12 traded firm. The main JC index advanced 3,927 points to close at 288,381 points. The junior index declined by 13 points to close at 2,732. Over 15 million units traded, valued at more than $148 million on the Jamaican dollar market. And on the US dollar market, over 68,000 units traded, valued at more than $38,000 US. Wisynco Group, with over 5 million units changing hands, accounted for 32% of the market volume. Caribbean Cream was second with over 2 million units trading. G West Corporation, with over 1 million units, accounted for 8% of the market volume, crossing the floor. Victoria Mutual Investments was the top advancer, up 79 cents to close at $3.24, followed by Wisynco, up $2.34 to close at $12.24, and Lasco Manufacturing, up 57 cents to close at $5.29. The main decliners were Caribbean Cream, losing $1.19 to close at $4.81, followed by Express Catering, down 52 cents to close at $4.20, and Cargo Handlers, down 80 cents to close at $10. In foreign exchange trading, the Jamaican dollar gained on the US and Canadian dollars today, but lost to the British pound. The US dollar ended the day selling for $125, losing 9 cents, while the Canadian lost $2.48 to sell for $97.39. The British pound gained $2.83 to close at $167.03 on average. And that's all the news we have for this evening. But before we go, a recap of our top story. Victoria Mutual Investments Limited took its place on the main market board of the Jamaica Stock Exchange today, listing on the last trading day of 2017. Thanks for watching. For more content, please visit our website at batvja.com. On behalf of the entire BATV News and production team, have a happy new year. I'm Andrew Laidley. Pleasant viewing.